in the pursuit of truth and common sense in an unbelievable world. You're listening to the Right Mind podcast with your host, Todd Schowalter.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Right Mind. I'm your host, Todd Schowalter. Thanks for joining me again. Today, I'm really excited to have with me all the way across the pond, as they say, Jade Matthews. She's from the UK, and they're dealing with a lot of the stuff that we are here in the US, whether it be the media, COVID, whatnot. We're just going to see what this is like on a global scale. How you doing, Jade?
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for having me, by the way.
Thank you for coming on. You know, things are crazy here, as you know, and I'm sure that they're crazy there. I think this whole thing is becoming like a worldwide party, so to speak. You know, we're dealing with things here, obviously. We don't know what to believe with the media. It doesn't seem, it's very biased. We're getting mixed messages. We're going back, the big vaccine, that's out. And now as of today, it looks like everybody has to go back here in St. Louis, Missouri, in the middle of the country, we're going back to mask. It looks like that may be a nationwide deal, even with the vaccine. It's total confusion. What are you dealing with over there? Anything as crazy as this?
Well, I just find that the rules and the goalposts are just changing like every 5 minutes. So at the moment, what we've recently had is a few weeks ago, we were told we don't need masks anymore, but we still need to social distance and stuff like that. So we don't need masks. We can go shopping and go to like busy areas without it. However, now they're like, they're thinking about introducing in September, like if you go to any kind of like mass event, like a football stadium, a rugby stadium, whatever, like museums, you're not going in unless you've been double vaxxed. That's what they're now kind of threatening. And they're doing it to club goers and pub goers as well, so that the younger generation, because apparently the younger generation are the ones who are not as enthusiastic about getting the vax. So they're now putting that out about, from the 12th of September onwards, if you want to go to a club, then you need to be double vaxxed. You need to show the proof. Otherwise, you're not being allowed in.
Yeah, and what I don't get, we're dealing with the same kind of goofiness here. It's like, okay, it's bad, but you don't have to do anything now. But in September we may go ahead and maybe have you mask again. If it's that bad, why aren't we just doing it now? I mean, does the virus just decide where and when it's going to get worse? I mean, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, this is what is doing my head in, especially a lot of my friends as well. They've been saying the same thing. And I just find I find this whole thing is for a massive divide. It's literally just like, either you can see that it's a big, I don't know, pile of crap, really. Sorry, I've in loss of another word.
I could use other words.
Yeah, it's just either those people who see it as a pile of crap, or those people who are literally waking up every morning like, scared to leave the house, scared to look at anyone, scared to talk to anyone. They think the vax is like their passport to freedom, when actually there are so many viruses that have gone around and been around, which still don't have, like the common cold, influenza, these things still don't actually have a cure, yet we're not stopping living for our lives. And I've noticed here in the UK, and I'm not sure if it's happening for you guys as well, here in the UK, every time we lift a restriction, a few like days or weeks later, suddenly there's another variant. And it's like they'll give us a little bit of freedom, like they'll lift lockdown, they'll lift the masks, they'll lift this, they'll lift that, and then they'll be like, oh guys, there's another variant.
It's almost like a bad movie sequel. It's like, and the movie's horrible. I mean, like you said, now we have the Delta variant. I'm waiting for the Omega syndrome. I mean, I think that one has Morgan Freeman in it, I think. I don't know. But I mean, it's just like one thing after the other. And, like you said, it's just, you either have people that are, running, to hide, or you have other people like you and I that just say, hey, come on, this is bullshit. I mean, enough is enough. Now, have you gotten the vaccine? I have not. I have not. You have?
No, I haven't. No, right. I keep getting text messages about going, and I'm like, well, nobody's ever given, like, I don't get why people are being forced to do this now, because nobody's ever been forced to take any other vax, whether that be influenza, because we have the flu jab here, which I'm pretty sure you guys as well.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Like nobody's ever been forced to have anything. It's always been this is available. If you want it, it's here. If not, then that's you. I don't understand why this is suddenly a case of like, you need it. Otherwise, you're not going to be allowed to go shopping. You're not going to be allowed to buy food. You're not going to be allowed to go to the pub or to a club or whatever. I'm not sure where this sudden control has come from. It just, this is why I've just felt this whole thing from the beginning has been a little bit of a circus act, if I'm perfectly honest.
And you hit my word. I mean, the word that I've used over and over and over again is control. I mean, I think it all comes down to control. Let me ask you this, and I've said this to other people, because I have people that say to me, it's now they call us the anti-vaxxers. It's just another label to stick on us,
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you don't, if you don't think just about yourself, think about other people that you may be harming. Well, let me ask you this, okay? If somebody else or this person has the vaccine, then, and if I come in contact, they're not going to get it if it works, right? And if they do get sick from me or whoever, well, then the vaccine didn't work. So then why should I get it? I mean, nothing makes sense.
Nothing, literally, this is what's making me angry. Well, it used to make me angry. I'm now laughing at it. And I don't want people to listen to this and be like, oh, you're laughing at people dying, because that is not the case at all.
People are dying every day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people are dying of cancer every single day. And when we were back in lockdown, those cancer patients they were being neglected, and they needed help, and they needed chemo, and they needed assistance and help. And people were like, oh no, COVID this, COVID that. And I'm like, hello, these people are dying alone. And someone who's got a cold is being prioritized over someone who's dying slowly of cancer, probably alone in their house with no one to speak to, not their family, no one. One thing that's getting on my nerves about this fact is the more and more people I hear who have it are like, I'm not allowed near XYZ because you haven't got it, or I'm not allowed next to this person because they haven't got it. I'm like, hang on a minute, this isn't making any sense. You've had the vax, which means surely you're a quote unquote protected, which means you don't need to worry about anything. And they're like, oh, no, I can still transfer it to so-and-so. And I'm like, so why is this a big deal then? Like, what is, just the dots are not connecting for me. They haven't been connecting from the beginning. And even now every time I see a highlight of it on Facebook or Instagram or on the news or whatever, I do avoid the news, but every time I just, like, in passing, I'll see something and just be like, this is just, you have to laugh at just the lack of common sense.
Well, thank you. It's common sense. And that's what this show is about, trying to find the common sense and all this junk. And that's what it is, junk, or other words we could use. Yeah, it doesn't add up. And what I am truly amazed at is if you had said to me 2 years ago that you're going to have the majority, even, or a good majority of the population that would buy into something like this, I would have said, this is the plot of a really stupid movie. Nobody's going to believe it. I cannot believe, as you said, people cannot connect the dots and just see that this is wrong. This doesn't make any sense. And, going back to even like you were saying before, there's so many other things that happen. You have people scared. You, for example, are in health and fitness and things like that. You have people that are dying of suicides, and they have depression, and they're stuck at home, and all these other things this is a horrible, what they're doing here is a travesty. And whether it be control or not, they're killing people indirectly. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. I've had this conversation with a few people close to me, and I was literally saying to my husband a couple of months ago, like, how many people are committing suicide right now because they're stuck in a house, they're lonely, they have no one to talk to. They probably had mental health problems before all of this began, and this lockdown has not helped anyone mentally. No matter how strong you are, everybody suffered somehow. Can you imagine these people at home committing suicide? And I can just imagine their death certificate saying COVID. I can literally just see it.
Yes, and that's another thing. I mean, it's here in the U.S. I mean, it's proof that some of these hospitals, if the cause of death is COVID, there's a monetary value to that. The hospitals are compensated in some way. I couldn't remember the exact number, but there was something where they were getting. It was almost like an incentive to call it COVID, and that's wrong. And the other thing that I don't know what the media, everything here is so jaded and so left-wing biased that it's sickening. The left will not, in the media rather, they will not even discuss or talk about the ramifications and the side effects of this vaccine. I mean, this vaccine has some dangerous side effects that we're just not talking about. I suffer from, I had a blood clot at one, like years ago, and I'm on blood thinners for the rest of my life. A friend of mine, his friend, died of a brain blood clot after he got the vaccine. Now, I'm not going to get it. I mean, we're not talking about that. Have you heard about anything like that in the UK?
Yep, I've heard of, actually, this was interesting. I heard a lady come out about this. She was in hospital and she uploaded her Facebook saying she was in hospital for something completely unrelated to COVID. And she was like, the stuff I'm seeing in here, people are being admitted because of blood clots, healthy people, like not necessarily old or vulnerable, people in their like 20s, 30s, 40s who are relatively healthy, they're young, they're fit and fighting at that age. They're coming in with blood clots and they're suffering because of this supposed vaccine. Right. And that is just when, I mean, I wasn't interested in it anyway to start with, because I've got my immune system. I trust my immune system. Right. I always have done. The only time I've literally got a jab is if I've gone traveling and it's been a requirement for that country, as in like yellow fever, typhoid, etc. And never for a flu. Sorry, but this is just a cold at the end of the day. Like this is literally just a flu, a really bad cold. And yes, the flu jab, the influenza kills millions of people every single year. Nobody's being forced to take a flu jab.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
But we're all being
did
somehow.
Did you have it? Did you actually have COVID?
No, well, I don't know. I don't think I've had it. But this is the thing. Apparently, if I did have it, it was about 18 months ago and it felt like a cold, if that was COVID. I didn't get a test.
Right.
And if anyone says, oh, that's irresponsible, it's like, why am I going to get a test when to me, it just feels like a common cold, because I've been having common colds for like 30 plus years. I know what it feels like. So I'm not going to go and get a test just so someone can be like, oh yeah, it's positive. So you can just scaremonger and make me feel like I need to go home and put my head in a bag.
Oh, I know. I had people on that same note that said, well, you got to go get tested. I know why. I feel great. No, you still got to get tested. It's like, well, I feel good. Well, go test it and make sure you don't have a headache. I don't have a headache. Well, go get tested just to make sure that you don't. I mean, is that stupid that it doesn't make any sense? Now, going back to, I actually had it. My whole family had it. Okay, now, like you said, I thought it was seasonal allergies. I thought it was a cold. But no, I thought it was allergies. No big deal. And I understand that some people, that are 200 years old, that have cancer and everything else, they're probably going to have a, worse reaction to it, but they're almost dead anyway. But we're not going to talk about that. Now, if I've had it, okay, as with anything, I now have the antibodies. Yeah. Anyway, and I am now protected from the virus. All they're doing with a vaccine is injecting you with the, a form of the virus so that you can build antibodies. Well, I already have that. So, but they're not talking about this. Yeah, they're not. But they still want you to get this vaccine, and everybody has to get it, and the people that get it want you to get it. I mean, it's creepy.
No, it's do you know what's even scarier is the people who have really taken this whole like, they're actually almost scared of you if you haven't had the vax. They're like, oh my God, stay away from me. Oh my God, you haven't had the vax. And I'm like, hang on a minute. Can we just calm down and use our common sense and look at the fact that these viruses and germs have been going around for years? COVID isn't going anywhere. It's just another form of a virus. Right. There's viruses going around everywhere. There's nothing we can do about it other than boost our immune systems and hope for the best. Like, a lot of what gets me the most is, as you know, in the UK we have our NHS, but the NHS, the National Health Service. So we have the COVID vaccines are free for us. Right. When they first came out, I think it was back in March, my local GP sent a message to everyone saying, like, if your BMI is over 40, you can skip the queue and have the jab, because they were doing it in order of like eldest to like most vulnerable to like the younger age groups. Right. And so like 60, 70 plus, they were obviously getting it because they're most vulnerable. And they also, in that category of most vulnerable, they put people who had a BMI of over 40. So basically encouraging people, or not encouraging, but more rewarding people who basically are overweight and also don't take any action to kind of get healthy or boost an immune system or live a healthy lifestyle, so that they can just get a jab so that they're protected.
Right. And you just ignore everything else. Oh,
And
by
let's
the
just,
way, you
yeah,
have diabetes and you're obese and everything. Oh, but you died of COVID. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I hear what you're saying. And
I just, that really got under my skin, and that really like set in stone for me how this is just a pile of crap, basically.
yes, it is. And like I said, once again, I have harsher words. You know, let's spin around here to you know, one of the big supporters of all this, unfortunately, and that is the media, whether it be mainstream or social media. I'll be honest with you, this podcast is on all the major platforms, but it's also on YouTube. There's a very good chance that this is our whole episode is going to get pulled from YouTube. I'll put it on Rumble, I'll make sure it's out, but there's a good chance this is going to be silenced. Now, that is wrong. Why? I mean, when you have the media and you have social media that are on such an agenda to carry out this narrative, unlike anything that I've seen in my lifetime, that to me is scary. And the thing is, you have, primarily from what I've seen, more of the elderly population that are stuck in front of CNN and some of the, you know, other typical types of, you know, scare news stations, just buy into this day in and day out, minute by minute. And, you know, they're basically brainwashing a good majority of the population. And rational people, and I consider mine one, you obviously are too, are being silenced. We're being silenced. I mean, here in the US, we have the First Amendment, freedom of the press, we have freedom of expression. I mean, I don't know how that translates over to the UK, but we are being, you know, snuffed. We're being, and that is scary. Are you dealing with that over in the UK too?
Yeah, for sure. On Instagram, I have a friend of mine who talks a lot about this. Like she, you know, we get called all sorts. We're going to get called conspiracy theorists. We're going to get called anti-vaxxers. I've already been called an anti-vaxxer and
I love
bitch.
that one. I'm going to get a button that says that. Yeah.
I know, we've got to get it tattooed on us. But she basically, this has been happening on a few platforms, a few friends who she follows, like accounts who have actually been closed down by social media because they're talking about what we're talking about, or how, you know, this is, you know, the dots aren't connecting, it's not making any sense. They've had their profiles shut down and blocked on Instagram, and they've had to like reopen another one up. And she highlights all of this, like she retweets everything. I think that's the right word for Instagram. She like puts it on her story and stuff like that. She went down to London a couple of months ago because they had what are they called? Oh my God, why can I not? I don't want to say riot because it wasn't a riot. It was actually a peaceful protest. That's it, a protest, sorry.
Yes, we have lots of those here. You know, and you can go outside without a mask for those too. Okay.
Oh yeah, of course. Then the rules change again for those.
Sure.
So she went to a protest down in London. It was really peaceful. I saw she was filming it and putting it on her Instagram all along. And of course, the media were like, oh, you know, if only a few people turn up, only a few thousand, when there were like millions. There were millions of people in the streets, and everybody else was doing the same thing. So if I went onto my home feed on Instagram, people were showing like the picture that the media were showing, and then the picture that other people who had actually been there and seen with their own eyes what they were showing. And of course, the media were like, oh yeah, it was just a few weirdos like arguing about COVID. And it's like, no, it was millions of people who were fighting for freedom.
Right. Now, this is a worldwide thing. This is a worldwide thing. And that is scary as hell unless you want to stand up to it. Now, it just doesn't make any sense. And, you know, I mean, you mentioned, you know, being silenced. I mean, I have the Right Mind Facebook group, and I have been banned from doing anything live on there. I think they let me come back sometime in August, but that'll last maybe, you know, 20 seconds. And so I'm like, you know, this is, if it's the truth, why are we afraid to say it? I mean, why are we silencing the truth? And that's scary because it's a worldwide situation. And where do you think this all started? I mean, I don't think it obviously just didn't started with, you know, some bat. I mean, we know where it came from, but don't you think, which I love that one. That's like, so that's like B movie, excellence. Oh, it came from a bad bat, so I mean, that's good. I mean, I think
I
I
just love the
saw
way
that.
they
Yeah.
literally thought we were going to fall for that one.
Oh
I'm
my
sorry, but
God.
this is just,
So
I
stupid.
burst out laughing when I heard that.
I know it's classic, but so we finally got back, away from that narrative because the plot wasn't working. So in my opinion, I mean, this was well constructed. I mean,
Mhm.
this isn't something that just happened randomly overnight. When you have the entire world, and then you have other leaders. I believe it's a Caribbean. It's I get one of the president died or something. A couple of the presidents died that they weren't going along with this whole thing. But again, I'm not going to get on a conspiracy thing because then everybody will call me a nut, which I already had, and I don't care. But all I'm saying is, I think that this was well orchestrated a long time ago. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. This is it's all it has to be orchestrated because the way things have just been happening have just been like every single stage of lockdown. I'm not sure how many stages you guys had or what the rules were. Every single stage of lockdown has just been so predictable. Like we had 3 lockdowns here, with the most recent one just being lifted early April. And the first one, everybody was following the rules, everybody was doing what they were told to do. The media here said to us, if you basically follow the rules, we'll be out of this in 12 weeks. Okay, so we're 18, 19 months down the line.
Yeah, right.
So what happened to the 12-week plan of like, if you all follow what we're doing, then we're going to be out of this. And then the second one was like around the like October, November. And then what got me was around Christmas. And this is when I think they really well orchestrated it, because Christmas time affects a lot of people's mental health for various reasons, especially as the weather's like quite horrific as well. The weather can also have an adverse effect on people's mental health. But then what they did is they made people have plans like, oh, you can travel. They gave us like a tiny window of like 4 or 5 days. They were like, you're allowed to travel to your families, do what you need to do. And then afterwards, we're going to put you back in lockdown. They shut that all down 24 hours before. They were like, no one's going anywhere. We're going back into lockdown because the, rate has gone back up, suddenly magically gone back up again. So everybody's Christmas plans were thrown, which of course will massively affect people's mental health because they were desperate to see families. It's Christmas, the weather's not the best, all of these things together. I hate to think where people were with their mental health
it's
in
terrible.
that moment.
No, I mean, I know 2 people, not they weren't friends, but I know of them that committed suicide, unfortunately. And so there's a big thing. I mean, it goes far beyond this whole thing. And I think people know that. I think who's ever behind it. And again, I'm not a conspiracy. Everybody's like, oh, you're a conspiracy nut. No, I'm not. I'm just looking at things that don't add up and questioning them. I believe the earth is round. I believe in gravity. If I throw a ball in the air, it's going to fall. I mean, I'm not into, but if there's something that just doesn't add up, and that's called being a human being. That's called being cerebral, being able to think. If something doesn't add up, you would be stupid not to question it. And my biggest question is, where's the end game on this? I mean, because right now, I mean, what they've done, now we got about half the population or something like that vaccinated, and great. So they're doing that, but and they just went on and on and on. Once you do this, you don't need a mask anymore, which never worked anyway. My last guest spoke about that, how stupid masks are. And so then even with, I mean, this will even help against the Delta variant, or whatever variant we come out with, as long as you're vaccinated. Well, now let's go back to the mask again. I don't know where the end game is. And if there is an end game, what do you think that is?
Do you know what? It's a good question because I have no idea. Because for me, how I see it is they're constantly dangling the carrot in front of us. Like, if you do this, we'll reward you with this. And if you get the vax, we'll make sure you can take the masks off and go out with your friends or whatever. I just think it's constant coaxing of like, if you do A, we'll give you B. It's constant like act like this and we'll reward you. Act like this and we'll reward you. And then they just take it off you in another way, shape or form. And I think there's a lot of people out there, especially the ones who like, I hear a lot of people saying like, oh, I just want this to be over with. So if you just follow the rules, there'll be an end game. And I think those are the people who are looking at people like us and saying like, oh, you're conspiracy theorists, you're anti-vax, you're crazy, you're this, you're that,
Right.
and giving us all of
Right.
these, insults, because they're in their heads, they're like, well, I want to tick a box and live a happy lifestyle. And I'm like, yeah, but the whole world does right now.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily just falling into the category of like, sure, I'm just going to go to the doctors and get a vax and not question anything and then hope that there's going to be an end game. Because in all honesty, they had an end game, 100 million end games, which didn't work.
No, and they just keep going on and on and on. And you've got a 99%, survival rate. I mean, something so stupid. I mean, it just doesn't make it, none of it makes any sense. So my question, okay, I mean, here, as far as the UK, your political system, I mean, you have like the Tory party and things like that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we right now, we are overrun by liberals, and they have an agenda, basically to, take the country back into, I don't know what, and we're tearing down statues. Everything is wrong. It's okay to protest. I mean, protest is fine, but when you're burning down cities, that's different, but that's okay. Yeah. We consider that peaceful if you're on the left and, whatever. So none of it makes sense. That is feeding into there. That's being supported by the media. And all of this, you have COVID, that all, it's like the trifecta of stupidity that is, coming together. How, from a political standpoint, are you dealing with the same type of, mental regression over there that we are with the left here?
Well, I try not to go down this rabbit hole a lot, if I'm honest, but
and you don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No. It's okay. The only reason I don't is just because I find they kind of all full of shit over here. That's just
there you go.
Yeah, I don't find any particular party better than the other. I think
right. You got that right. Yeah,
all full of crap to an extent, and they all full of empty promises, which is what most politicians are. They're just full of empty promises, full of shit, and they just talk and say A and do B.
Right.
So I don't think our current our current prime minister, I don't think he is putting himself in everybody else's shoes, because all he's thinking about is himself. And our prime minister actually caught COVID back in April last year. Mm-hmm. And they made such a big deal over like, oh my God, our prime minister's got it. He might die. He's gone to intensive care and all of this and all of this. And they made such a big deal out of that. Just to scare us all, like, oh my God, this is so bad that the prime minister's got it. And it's like, well, I'm not being funny. If it's as bad as you're making out, then we're all going to die. If it's as bad as you're making out, which of course it isn't.
Right, exactly.
But I just find that everything is in their interest and not in anyone else's interest at all. And that's just how I feel about most of the parties.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, it's all screwed up. It's all screwed up. I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, the right, I mean, and the left, it's all a big mess. It's just, you've got this narrative that, a lot of this stuff just doesn't make common sense over here. And, of course, we had, Donald Trump, and anybody that voted for him, should be, burned in hell forever or whatever. See, it's a big division to begin with. But you've got, a lot of dysfunction and a lot of change going on that's really not for the better. And this whole thing with COVID, that fuels into it, along with the media. And to me, it's like a perfect storm. I think, okay, what else aside from, I mean, the murder hornets never showed up. That would have been really neat. Do you remember the murder hornets? We had murder hornets here that were split. That was, I think they decided, nah, that's a little too B movie. Yeah. I mean, so they axed that one. But I mean, it seems like a perfect storm brewing here. And if they are really, because, I've written screenplays, not as good as this whole scenario, but, on the journey here, what is our climax? I mean, we talked about end game, but what are we leading towards? And if it's happening in the UK, and it's obviously happening here, and I know I have friends in India, I have friends, it's happening all over this. You have this. Do you think that this is the objective here is globalism? I mean, are we trying to convert the entire the planet Earth into a globalistic society?
That it would seem so from what we've witnessed the past 18, 19 months. That's what it seems like. Right. Because when we've put all the evidence and lined it all up and gone, hang on a minute, the dots aren't quite connecting here. They haven't been connecting since the beginning. Where are we actually going with this? Because right now I literally feel like we're going around in circles. Like we'll make an improvement with something. So for example, our masks have gone, and every single day I'm thinking to myself, someone's going to come out in a minute and be like, oh, you have to put your masks back on now because this has gone up, or you have to get the jab, you have to get it.
They're doing that here. They already did. They started yesterday.
This is literally like I said earlier on about dangling the carrot. It's literally like, oh, we'll give you this treat if you just act like this and just be a little. It's like trying to feed your kid veg. Like, oh, try and eat this and you'll grow and you'll get this and you'll get that. It's like trying to sell something which is like, people are questioning it now. And the thing is, a lot of us were questioning this from the beginning.
Sure.
But in the beginning, obviously, it was more serious. But now those people who are still questioning it, they're getting louder and they're growing in masses now because there are more people coming out and questioning this now. But I do think what you said sounds about right. It's kind of like almost like a big reset of some sort.
Well, that's what they've called it, the big reset. And I don't know.
Like an economic reset and stuff like that, because it's like affected everyone's economies.
Yes.
Massively. Yeah. And even some countries now are not letting people in unless they've been double vaxxed.
I know. Well, you have the vaccine passport, which doesn't make any sense either. Because if I go somewhere and they're vaccinated, like we were talking about earlier, then they don't have to worry because the vaccine works. And if they do get sick, well, again, the vaccine must not have worked. So why do I have to get it anyway? It doesn't make any sense. And going back to this whole thing,
you just go around in circles with it. And when you're trying to explain this,
and then politically, we only have a few minutes here. I'd love to talk to you all day. We basically have our leadership here isn't that bright, and it seems our Joe, which I'll probably get killed for saying this. I don't think he's really running the show over here. He's not running the show in his own mind. I know that, but so I think there are a lot of other things in play here that we don't, that aren't being, shown to us. And again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. There are a lot of things out there that I think are ridiculous. I question things, and when things don't add up and things just don't, it's okay to question things. And again, going back to what we were saying earlier, when people are snuffed and silenced for using their minds and questioning things, we're talking about things practices that were pulled back in the 30s with Germany. I mean, come on, learn your history. Of course, we're getting rid of history, but I mean, that's scary stuff. I don't know if you've seen the show before, but we've got a couple more minutes. These last 2 minutes, I give everybody a chance to save the world. You've got 2 minutes to tell us if you were in charge of everything tomorrow or today, Jade, it doesn't even have to be about this, but you've got to make the world a better place. And it's, what would you do in this giant scenario we call planet Earth? What would Jade do in 2 minutes to make the world a better place?
Well, I would scrap the education system, especially. Okay. I can't speak for your country because I don't know what it's like. I do have a lot of friends in the States. I only go off what they tell me, but the education system in the UK needs to be scrapped because it teaches people to be complacent, to not question anything, to fear everything, to just memorize stuff. No one's taught to use their brain, basically. You're just taught to memorize, go into an exam, copy it all down, and then when you pass your exam, you can go and get a nice job and live happily ever after with your house and your partner and your car in the drive. That's literally the life that we're sold here. So I would scrap the education system. Okay. Of course, education is important, don't get me wrong. However, the way we are taught, literally, the schools here are like prison cells. And I'll probably get a lot of stick for saying this, but the school system here is horrific. It's making people complacent. It's making people not question things. And obviously in Britain, we have the stereotype of like stiff upper lip, which I don't have, as you probably can tell.
No, I think you're one of the coolest people I've talked to in a long time.
Yeah, so we have all of this like, oh, don't question this, don't question that, because people are going to find you aggressive and people are going to find you this. I wish people could just use common sense and trust their gut instincts more than they are now.
Right.
Because at the moment, there's a whole load of like, everyone's being like, almost like put into a herd of like, when a herd of sheep are being chased into a pen, that's what I feel like people are being doing. Like they're not stopping and being like, why are you herding me here? It's kind of just, oh, well, everyone else is doing it and I don't want to be the left one out. I don't want to be the one like on the receiving end of BS. So I'm just going to follow through with it. Nobody thinks for themselves. Nobody uses their common sense anymore. And it all stems, unfortunately, from the education system, I believe, and obviously parents as well. But that's another story. I can't go into each individual parent.
No, I don't. We could talk all day about a lot of topics. Believe me, there's a lot of. I mean, and a lot of people. It seems like they're being domesticated, which is happening here. You're supposed to think a certain way, but we have critical race theory here that's starting out, which is going to divide everybody even more. But they basically want to break you down so that they can control you. And again, that goes back to some scary times in history that hopefully we won't repeat again. But again, like you said, if you domesticate, we have people here. I mean, we're paying people not to go to work. Okay, that's socialism. Okay, I mean, we're blaming this virus. We're spending. I don't know if you've heard, trillions of dollars. Joe is along with the Democratic Party. Trillions of dollars, of which they're just giving people money to stay home because the virus may get you. Bullshit. And
anything can get you anytime.
Anything. I get hit by a car, come on. But by doing that, nobody's going into work. Businesses are closing because their employees don't show up. They're all being domesticated. They're all being turned into, let me feed you your crumbs. And that's scary. And we're the crazy ones, Jade. We're the crazy ones. It's almost like, we see the emperor's doesn't have any clothes on. Everybody else is going along with it, but now he's actually naked. But we're
we're the crazy ones. And I've apparently been called crazy all through lockdown because I've stayed on top of health and fitness and encouraged others to do so. Because actually, I'll tell you something really funny. When we went into lockdown and our essential stores were kept open, I put that quote unquote. Our essential stores were like bakeries, pastry shops, which are like really popular here because that's all people eat, and liquor stores, they were all left open because apparently they were essential. So basically everyone's stuck at home. Nobody's like working. Well, nobody's going into work. Everybody's stuck at home. Everybody's inactive and then eating pastries and drinking alcohol. And you're telling me like, I need a vaccine to take care of my health. No, thank you.
No, and they always fatten the pig before they slaughter it, So
there you go.
Yes, this has been a blast. Seriously, I want you to be a regular. I want you to come because we could talk. I mean, I don't even have to. We just go from one to the next. I mean, is there anything you want to promote before we wrap this one, or plug? I mean, do you have a website, or you promote your business? Otherwise, let's come back and do it again.
I would absolutely I love talking about stuff like this and really questioning. I just like questioning, like not in a derogatory manner, but just questioning, like using my brain, using my common sense. Like I've said this, thank God my husband feels the same, because if we had different views, we'd be arguing a lot. But he also thinks the same. He's like, the gym's closed, but the liquor stores are open. Like, really?
Oh, really? The churches too. The churches.
Oh yeah.
You can do that, but you go out and protest and burn down a 7-Eleven, with your buddies, but you can't go to church stuff. It's bullshit. I'm sorry, it's crazy. We've run out of time. I do hope you'll come back again though, because this has been awesome.
Happy to come back whenever you're ready.
Oh no, I want to do it. We're going to go to you like on a. You're going to be my UK correspondent, okay?
Oh my God, yeah, I love this. Like we could just know what?
Nobody will see our stuff though. I mean, we're going to get censored and banned. But hey, until then, we'll speak some common sense into some people. But
we'll get somewhere, and then eventually we'll stop getting censored. But also, we are a nation divided as well. So anyone who doesn't think that is like
worldwide. Reality. It's a worldwide situation. Unbelievable.
Because people think we're civil over here, which I'm not really sure about that. But anyway, that's another story for another time.
We'll do it. No, we'll do it. There's a lot to talk about. You know what? I think as the narrative goes on, this plot will get better. We'll have even more to talk about until they put us away on some island somewhere. And, you never hear from us again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Jade Matthews from the UK, Liverpool, as a matter of fact. Until next time, I really appreciate everybody joining me, either listening or watching. And until next time, I'm Todd Schowalter. You've been watching and listening to Right Mind. And remember, if you don't have a right mind, you don't have a mind at all. Till next time. Bye-bye.
This has been the Right Mind Podcast with Todd Schowalter.